Now, there is no way to sugarcoat this at all. That was an absolutely pathetic performance in the Champions League. Chelsea lose 1-0 to Dinamo Zagreb. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the
championship! Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review show, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance in the Champions League, first leg against Dinamo Zagreb. But fellas, ladies, before I get into all that, please do me a big favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. It will help grow this channel. It'll help attach to the algorithm. And my sponsors would appreciate it as well. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Just hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, the Champions League campaign has kicked off and Chelsea have just embarrassed themselves in Dinamo Zagreb, losing 1-0 to Dinamo Zagreb, goal scorer Orsic. So we do have some talking points that we do have to touch on. We're going to have to start with Thomas Tuchel today. I think that now we're at the point in the season where, the window's shut right now and, the decision making, who to start, who to sit, has to be scrutinized at this point in time. So we're going to look at that. We're going to be looking at the final third. Obviously we saw a debut from Aubameyang today and Havertz with Sterling up top, first time they've ever played together. And essentially we're just going to look at the overall chemistry in the squad right now, the synergy that I've been using the last few games, and basically trying to identify where the problems are and what is the answer to some of these problems that we're seeing on the pitch. Okay, so Chelsea came out in their 3-4-3 and lots of surprises all over the pitch for the starting roles. Obviously, Fofana came in for Thiago Silva, which was a bit of a surprise, basically for me, due to the fact that he's never really played there before. That role is very demanding. And I'm pretty sure at Leicester he was used as the predominantly right-sided center back, with Johnny Evans coming in when they did play three at the back. So we had him there, and then we had Mason Mount and Kovacic in the sixes. And the front three did surprise me a little bit. We did see a front three of Havertz, Sterling, and Aubameyang making his first start. And, mixed reviews there as well. Certainly didn't have the synergy, certainly did not have the understanding on the pitch. And you just got to question now, we're going to go right into it, whether or not Thomas Tuchel made the right choices for this match, given the magnitude of it. I'm sorry, when I look at the lineup and I see Champions League first leg, I'm thinking against Dinamo, one of the lower tier teams in the group right now. We have to be thinking about 3 points. You can't be thinking about experimentation, trying players in positions that they haven't been played in before. You have to be thinking about 3 points. What is the best lineup to get you 3 points? Now, clearly Fofana is a young player. He hasn't really played his best football yet. Those days are ahead of him. But to put him in a game of this magnitude where 3 points is a must, as a manager, you have to protect your players, especially your younger players who haven't really, built up the confidence and experience to, recover from errors or even, play mistake-free football in the first game of this Champions League. So for me, right off the bat, I felt like Fofana in the middle, and I said it on another stream, a friend of mine, Gem Stream, that I wasn't too confident in seeing Fofana play in the middle. I just didn't see him play there before. And, it's a demanding role. And unfortunately, it proved to be the case. The first goal, Koulibaly goes up against Pekovic, loses the aerial duel, and he just knocks it into space where Orsic is, ready. And this is something that they've worked on a few times. I saw in the match more than a couple times where, Pekovic is just expected to win the header and Orsic is already making his run to get in behind. He was just expecting that time and time again. So that was a planned play for them. Fofana went in to win the ball as well with Koulibaly. They both missed it. And Orsic is reading the play and gets in behind. You have a more experienced player like Thiago Silva back there. That's not going to happen. He's going to be reading the play on and making sure that he's positionally aware of what the dangers are there. And unfortunately, we just did not have that today. And that's not on Fofana, that is on Thomas Tuchel not recognizing, the magnitude of this match at this point in time. And then you move into the midfield where you want to have control, you want to be able to dictate tempo and rhythm and whatnot. And you have Mason Mount playing in the 6 alongside Kovacic. And again, I just could not understand the selections here. I could not understand how you can put two players who have never really played in those roles before, together as a partnership in a game where you want 3 points. You have to start the Champions League with 3 points. And, you play Kovacic, who, again, wasn't terrible, but again, when we're trying to dictate tempo, he's not a tempo setter. He's not a guy that is going to establish rhythm for Chelsea in the final third. He's not a guy that's going to establish rhythm at all. Like, he's a guy that likes to take touches, dribble past, look for through balls every now and then, but he's not a guy that's going to keep things ticking over and making sure that Chelsea, everyone gets a touch, everyone's in the game involved. That's what the role of Jorginho is, and this is what people continually miss when they berate him for not being a useful player in this side. It's the fact that he gives everyone touches, he allows everyone to come into the game, and whether or not he's solid enough defensively, I will concede that point 150%. But in a game like this, where you're supposed to be on the front foot, you're supposed to have 70% of the possession, you need somebody that's going to dictate the tempo for you and give you rhythm, give your squad rhythm, allow people to fall into their natural roles. And this is just not what happened in the midfield. As a matter of fact, not just Kovacic, but Mount as well. Mount is not comfortable in that deeper number 6 role, and I don't care what anyone says. You can't tell me that playing Mount in the 6 in a game like this is a smart decision. I mean, clearly Mount is out of form right now, and you're playing him in a completely different role to what he's accustomed to try and get him to play him back into form. Just makes no sense to me whatsoever. This is the Champions League. This is where you play your best players in the best form. You don't experiment. You experiment after game 5, game 6, where you've already clinched qualification into the knockouts. It's not game 1. Mount in the 6, like, that made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. You can tell he had no chemistry established with him and Kovacic. We lost the midfield, and that's essentially where we lost the game. We just had no rhythm in the middle of the pitch whatsoever, and nobody was in sync with each other. Absolutely no one. The runs that were being made off the ball, nobody was picking them up. When guys are coming close and near to pull defenders out and have guys going behind, nobody's picking that up. I am by no means Thomas Tuchel, and I understand that a lot of what we're seeing right now is this Chelsea not having established an understanding between each other on the pitch right now. Like, obviously, lots of new players coming into the side, and still trying to figure out where people like the ball, who likes to make runs where, who likes the ball. Like, all of these things are very, very valuable and viable excuses for the performance today. But I'm sorry, like, in a game like this, you have to go to tried, tested, and true. Go to the players that have gotten you to the point where you are right now, play them in their natural roles, and give them the opportunity to grow the squad naturally, more organically. And it's just not happening right now. Like, Aubameyang, as much as I was excited to see that he was making the start today, this was clearly not the game for it. He was nowhere near in rhythm. Granted, he had a couple chances where he should have scored when he got played in behind, but just like the timing was just way off with this squad. Like, the timing, the rhythm, everything was just off. This is a brand new squad. We have players that are coming in that haven't really established any sort of chemistry, rhythm, synergy with the club. They are basically still trying to figure out who likes the ball where, who likes to make runs when, who likes to come and collect the ball where. And all of these little factors are disjoining the side and making for a less seamless style of play. We're still thinking about where people want to be and, oh, does he want this ball? Oh, I'm making that run. Oh, is he going to see that? Like, all of this is very much down to rhythm, continuity, and of course synergy, the word that I've been using since the beginning of the season, I feel like. But this still comes down to Thomas Tuchel. Like, this is the Champions League. You have to go with your most trusted players at this point in time. I don't care if it's Dinamo Zagreb. I don't care who it is. We need 3 points. This is the first game. This is match week 1. You need 3 points. You should not be experimenting with the lineup, playing guys in roles that they haven't played before, playing guys that have not played for the club before in this particular fixture. We have to establish that we're ready to play in the Champions League now. Not experimenting, still trying to tweak things, figure things out, see if we can get something else happening up top. None of that. That cannot happen in game week 1. Game week 1, you have to find a way to win. Win. Especially against Dinamo Zagreb, who's probably the 4th best team in the group right now. We lost 3 points there. So I'm a little frustrated with Thomas Tuchel, not just because of the selections, but also because, he's made these selections knowing what was at stake. And he made these selections and did not have any really sort of like semblance of how we're supposed to play with this particular setup. You know, for me, I watched that game today and I was just like, wow, like we actually look like a side that has not played football together before. We look like a side that is not taking on the instructions the manager is putting out, if he's putting out any instructions. We look like a side that just did not take on any of the instructions whatsoever. We look completely under-rehearsed. We look completely out of form. We look like, as a bunch of individuals, it did not look like a team, no cohesion whatsoever. Whereas the last few games, you know, that we've been successful in, we've been relying specifically on individual performances. We just didn't get those today. Like, nobody played well. Nobody. And when you have nobody playing well, nobody really finding their, you know, their rhythm and chemistry within the squad, this is the end result. And, you know, you bring on people off the bench who, again, you think can impact it. I thought Jorginho came in and changed the game for us, you know, established some rhythm, like some tempo to the game. We started to press up the pitch a little bit higher. Obviously, as we did that, Dinamo Zagreb stepped back a little bit further and made it very hard to find spaces and whatnot. But we were looking to be more on the front foot and play the balls a little bit more directly. Whereas we did not do that in the first half. We were just so slow and labored, and it seemed like every time we got the ball, we were shifting out into the wide areas and looking to cut it back. I feel like Chelsea as a whole, when we're playing against teams that we should be better than, we just play right into their hands. We make it so easy to defend. You know, like 1, 2, 3, 4 touches when you only need to make one. When you take too many touches on the ball, it allows the defense to reshape and reform. That's exactly what happened every time today. When we took 4 and 5 touches to make a simple pass, the defense was able to recalibrate what they're supposed to do and get themselves in the position to defend. You know, even if we had guys that made a mistake, you know, got caught out, you know, fell down in possession, the last line, we're getting 4s and 5s forward, and we're looking to threaten their goal. We take too many touches, and then the opportunity's gone. You know, like, we have to make quick decisions when we're in possession of the football, and we're just not doing that enough right now, and it's getting to be really, really frustrating. Obviously, you want to have somebody that's more of a creative thinker in the final third, somebody that understands how to unlock defenses, but in the end, when you get on the break and you have numbers, like, that shouldn't be down to having your creative thinker, your number 10, you know, getting on the ball to decide where the ball needs to go. This is just instinctual. Like, you have to make good decisions when you're an attacker in those scenarios. You know, you have numbers on the break. This is not about, like, not having somebody that's an offensive thinker. I understand the need of that when you have low block defenses and nobody understands how to, like, break it down. You need somebody that can orchestrate for you. But when you're on the break and you have numbers and you're not making the right decisions in possession, that's a you problem. We are a side that are in need of chemistry on the pitch, synergy, you know, understanding. But we are also a side that needs to have someone who sets the tone for the game. You know, we just don't have that right now. I mean, you can probably make the argument that Reece James can do that in wide areas, but again, we don't need that there. We need it in the middle of the pitch. And this is, again, I keep harping on this, like, people bashing N'Golo Kante for his game and whatnot. Like, he sets the tone for Chelsea match after match when he's playing at his best. He's the one that's setting the tone. You know, the tone for how we're supposed to win these games, play these games, what tempo we're supposed to be playing at and whatnot. You know, snapping in the challenges and stuff like that, winning the ball back, you know, playing with an immense amount of energy. That's the tone that he sets. And we just don't have that in the side right now. We don't have anyone that wants to take the game and say, this is the Champions League. We have to step up our game. I'm going to elevate my performance right now. I'm going to take it to the next level. This is the level that we have to be at to compete in this competition. This is the Champions League. We don't have anyone that has any understanding of what that means anymore. You know, like, obviously Thiago Silva is another guy who was missing. We thought that we could, like, survive without him, 37-year-old Thiago Silva, and that clearly isn't the case. You know, we need on-field leaders, guys that understand what it means, like, to play at this level and excel at this level. We're just not seeing that in the side right now. You know, a bunch of individuals that have not come together, not coalesced, not gelled, not really assembled any sort of understanding on the pitch with each other. Just out there for a kick about it looked like. It really did look like that. And, like, you can't have that at this level. Not with the investment that has been made into this club, not with the expectations being as high as they are. We need to be playing a lot better. A lot better. And it doesn't just come down to a creator. It comes down to an overall tone setter in the squad. It's just not good enough right now, and I'm not I'm not here to rag on Thomas Tuchel. It's too early for me to even begin to think about any of that stuff, but some of the things I saw in this match today were really puzzling, and I didn't just wait until how it played out. I really did think that when I saw the lineup, I was like, wow, this is really weird. He's taking a lot of risks here. And it proved to be true. You know, like, you can't put a square peg in a round cylinder, and you can't coax a lamb to behave as a lion. You know, like, you have to play players to their temperament, and you have to play players to their strengths, you know, and not assume that just because, you know, we're going to be in possession of the ball 70% of the time, we won't have to worry about the other responsibilities that will come about when, you know, we're being countered and pressed and whatnot, you know, when we're out of possession. These are things that are worrying right now. The fact that we have no regard and no consideration for all phases of the game, defensively, transition, and offensively. It just seems like we're trying so hard to, you know, force our way into the final third to try and score goals that we're not really taking much account for what happens in behind and what happens in transition. So what is the solution? Like, what can we actually look to as a solution to all of this? I mean, obviously time is one thing, but I really do feel like what we're seeing right now has a lot more to do with the fact that we have a lot of players that are just out of form and haven't really had the same sort of like chemistry with the manager. You know, we have a lot of guys that may not have wanted to be here, and they're still here, and they're being counted on to play big minutes for us. You saw Kai Havertz like shush the crowd after scoring 1 goal in like 15 games or something like that, and you can tell that overall there's a lot of stress and pressure on him. Like, whether or not that's coming from us or it's coming from the manager or elsewhere, you can feel that there's tension there. You know, the same could be said for Mason Mount. Like, I was shocked to see that he lasted as long as he did. He had not one influential mood in the game. Of course, he was running about a bit in the first half and, you know, got stuck in a little bit. But in terms of like influencing the game and building and like, you know, influencing the final third, he did make a few runs that I noticed that were actually quite interesting, and we had somebody on the ball that could understand where people are making runs from. It might have led to something else. But I mean, he is just trying way too hard, and he's not allowing the game to just come to him. And I feel like, again, just pressure mounting. What is the solution to all of this? What is the solution? Maybe it's about simplifying the game for these guys. Maybe it's about like being more solid defensively first. Maybe it's about dropping the line a little bit further back and not pressing up the pitch and putting so much pressure on this brand new defense that haven't really been able to like figure out what it means to be Chelsea yet. I'm talking about the likes of Fofana, I'm talking about Koulibaly, I'm talking about Cucurella. You know, like, maybe we need to drop the line back a bit and allow for the game to, you know, naturally progress from there, rather than just, you know, putting a lot of pressure in the final third and not getting anything to show from it. You know, maybe that's the solution. Maybe the other solution is to switch to a 4 at the back and play a 3 in the middle. You know, an actual 3 in the middle, like maybe not, you know, a 6 and 2 8s, maybe 2 6s and an 8. I know we've done that before, but right now when we switch to that 4-2-2-2, it just leaves such a hole in the middle of the pitch. You know, like a real vacancy there, and, you know, most of our play just starts to go out to the flanks, and we're not able to, you know, really hurt teams in the middle of the pitch where you want to be able to be dominant and, you know, control the game. We're just not doing that anymore. So maybe it's a 4-3-3. Maybe it comes down to playing with more dedicated 8s. Maybe it's about dropping Kai Havertz down into the 8 position. First and foremost, what we do need is time, but after that, it's going to come down to Thomas Tuchel making the right selections for this club. You know, he is not short for options right now. We do have enough on the bench right now. Today, he just got everything wrong. Everything was wrong today. And, you know, he's got to hold his hand up to that. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. I am so frustrated and disappointed. And this is not the way I like to go into the first game in the Champions League. I really wanted to see us walk away with a win and use that game as like a springboard for the rest of the season, you know. Establish some chemistry, you know, bring on Aubameyang in the 75th minute, maybe give him a cameo, you know, scores a goal on the cameo. That would have been the perfect way to start the game, you know, to start the campaign, really. But, you know, we just didn't do that. We force-fed this lineup and forced people into positions that they were uncomfortable in. And the end result is a 1-0 loss to Dinamo Zagreb. Like, Tuchel, man. I haven't seen your post-match yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, but you have a lot to answer to for this one. Like, obviously I understand it has a lot to do with just like chemistry and rhythm and getting to these guys, you know, on the same page, reading from the same hymn book, a lot of that. But like, in the end, he's making the decisions for the squad right now, and like the selections were just terrible for this match, just terrible. You know, Fofana in the middle, you know, with Kovacic and Mount, that's your middle three. And, you know, man, we had absolutely no midfield, absolutely nothing in the first half. You know, just kept on pushing up the field with no real idea of how to establish rhythm and intensity and, you know, just repetition and getting people touches and stuff like that. None of that happened today. You know, and this just comes down not only to the personnel, but also to the manager. The manager has to put the right people in the right positions to succeed, and I don't feel like he did that today. You know, Broya came on later on, and, you know, while he was, you know, imposing, he didn't really offer much, you know? And he can't be the first striker option off the bench in the Champions League. It just doesn't work like that for me. I'm sorry. Like, as much as I'm happy to see him come into the side, I'm happy to see him get minutes. We need more. Like, you can't, maybe the option there is, you know, if you're gonna start Aubameyang, which seemed weird to me, you know, you leave Kai on the bench and have him come on to influence. But for me, it just meant more sense to start Kai Havertz and bring on Aubameyang as a late substitute to see if he can figure out what we need to do if we're trailing or winning. But anyways, I digress. We got Fulham at the weekend, guys, and it's gonna be a long week. It's gonna be a long week trying to figure out what Chelsea should do next, because, you know, we're running out of cards to pull right now, and we're just not seeing an established side. We're not seeing any sort of like rhythm in this side, and, you know, Tuchel has to get that back. He has to drill that back into the side right now, because if not, it's just gonna be a long season. But until then, you know what to do, fellas. Keep the blue flag flying high, and up the Chelsea. Peace.